The weekend. Thank goodness it's the weekend. It may be Monday morning for everybody else, but it is Saturday morning for me, and I need it. I just got off vacation last week, and let me tell you, I busted my butt to get, I had a big list of things to do, and I really wanted to do it. Man, I was treating my vacation almost like a job. But man, I was busting my butt to get like the deck painted and a few other things like that planter built, and I did very well. But man, my neck still hurts. Whenever you do any kind of unusual job that your body isn't really trained for. Now, for me, you can definitely feel some pain. Now. My garage is still a disaster, but I tell you, that deck over paint is pretty darn cool. Here is the results of the vacation's work. I still have a few things like tape over the little anti-slip things, but and I'm also going to stain this lattice work reddish, and basically the deck is not done. What I need to do is see these little spaces between the boards where they aren't painted. I need to work out a way to get down in there with a brush or something. But being on my hands and knees to clean out between the boards and whatnot, man, let me tell you, my body is not trained up for that sort of thing. Yeah, but oh, there's Fran again. But anyway, I had a good vacation, and now it's the weekend, and I'm going to do a few more things around here without irritating my neck if I can. But this is not really the reason why I'm making this video. Basically, where is that little doofus? Yeah, oh well. Basically, what I wanted to discuss was roommates. You know, there's men going their own way, right? We don't need the living space that a married person or somebody who's cohabitating with a woman needs, because she, of course, needs 5 or 6 closets and a big bunch of racks and shelves for all of her shoes, right? And we don't need that. Now, in my case, it just so happened that my dad is getting quite old. He's like 79 years old. And he is in a position where he isn't as physically capable, and he can't really take care of a house without a lot of pain. So he couldn't really take care of his house anymore. So he moved in here, and he can do a lot still, but he is not able to run the whole house by himself. Without me, he'd probably need to get like a condo or one of those senior living things going, and he didn't want to do that. And when I was telling him I was going to get a roommate or two, and he said, "Oh man, I would be happy to be your roommate," and that was last August, and that was almost a year ago, and it's been great. But if it wasn't for him, I would certainly have gotten another roommate, or possibly two, because I've got two extra rooms. Not really because of the money so much as just to keep another heartbeat in the house. I don't think people are really designed or really adapted to living totally solitary. I mean, I did in the condo, and it's kind of okay in a small space, but for a house like this with multiple bedrooms and places and just enormous space, you're just not occupying the house, and you end up feeling like a mouse in the corner of some big stadium or something. So I would certainly have gotten a couple of roommates, and I've studied. I've actually had a number of roommates. Like back in the condo, I've had two roommates. Both of them were kind of D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, computer kind of guys, as am I, and it was great. Made a little bit of extra money, and neither of us really needed the space, so it was just freaking perfect. That condo has two parking spots assigned to it, so we each had our own covered parking spot, and it was awesome. And on the weekends we'd have every other weekend we'd have a big game of Dungeons and Dragons. I'd run it, and then basically on the off weekends, one of the roommates, he would run a game called Hero or Champions, and that wasn't as fun, but I enjoyed it. But of course, now I'm really into gardening and preparedness and all that good stuff. I would certainly, if possible, I would find a roommate who is into that sort of thing, and preferably a man going his own way. Because if it wasn't, he'd end up with bringing all kinds of women in and shit, and I don't know if I could deal with that. I mean, there's all kinds of hazards associated with that. Go out somewhere and have a great time, but don't bring them back here. And of course, I certainly wouldn't have a woman as a roommate. There are so many hazards associated with that, it's just insane. But there are a lot of procedures and systems you can adopt in a situation with a roommate, things that really cause a lot of problems under normal circumstances. Those little problems, they can become big problems, but those problems are eliminated in this situation. Now, my dad and I apply some of those things, but since we're family, we don't really have to apply all of them. One of the things is that we have a shared food situation, and basically we've got an envelope for food receipts, right? And at the end of every month, I total them all up, and then we basically split the difference, because we each eat a certain amount. And if we had like three roommates, we would of course cut it into thirds. The house has a certain number of utilities, and of course the utilities are shared. And I charge him just a nominal fee for rent, although it's pretty far under market, I think. But since he's family, not a problem. So basically, it's a little bit of extra money and assistance on the utilities. No point in paying for all the heat during the winter myself. And overall, he gets off with vastly lower expenses than he had when he was living in his house. There are other things you can do to sort of, if nobody likes cleaning the bathroom, for example. Now, me and my dad, it's pretty cool because we've got 3 bathrooms in this house, right? He just has the one over there, and I have the one over there, and we each clean it as much as we want, and and ignore it if we feel like it, you know. But if, of course, it was a shared bathroom situation, there would absolutely have to be a regular schedule for cleaning it. And if there are also situations where you could apply a monetary value to the chore. For example, if nobody liked cleaning the bathroom, you could just set a $10 fee that becomes available like once a week or something, where somebody goes through, writes his name on the job on a sheet, and then that $10 credit is for him. So so basically it would be, he would get $10 off his rent, and the other roommates would effectively get $10 more. And then the overall goal is for everybody to pretty much equalize their chores. Now, if somebody earned a ton of money or was forced to work a lot of overtime at work or something like that, he could do fewer jobs without any guilt around the house, and he would just pay a little bit more. And if somebody was suddenly unemployed or having some kind of major expense, they could kick in a little bit more and work a little harder, do more jobs around the house, and then basically he would end up paying less, or possibly even nothing if he really busted butt, you know, because people's time is worth money, you know, and if you put a monetary value on chores, then there's a fairly decent chance that they'll get done. Now, if a chore didn't get done for like a week, it would go on to the next week's chore list, and its value would be twice the amount of money, and eventually somebody's going to do it. So basically, a lot of the times roommates have problems where somebody drinks all of their beer, or eats all of the eggs, or basically eats what food that somebody else owns, right, or somebody else purchased. But with a shared food situation, where it's just not a problem. Basically, whenever we want to get something at the grocery store, either my dad or I, we just, on the way home from work or something, I just stop off and get what's necessary, load it in the fridge, right? And then throw my receipt into the thing, and basically at the end of the month, somebody will have purchased a certain amount more groceries than the other person, so the result is that is taken off of their rent. So effectively everybody pays the same for the food. And unless somebody's like a compulsive overeater or something, which is somebody you wouldn't want to live with anyway, everybody pretty much equalizes on the food. So that completely gets rid of a big stumbling blocks that shatters a lot of roommate situations. Now, the advantages of course, having roommates is fewer expenses, somebody to take you to the airport or whatever if necessary, or somebody to run to the rescue if your car breaks down, or theirs does, or mine does. And it really minimizes expenses, and you have shared meals, and there's generally something cooked in the fridge. Like I like making spaghetti and tacos and things like that, and generally there's something in there to eat. And then we cook, not necessarily for everybody, we can, but it's when you're cooking a meal, it's just as easy to make a ton of it, you know, and then put it in little plastic containers, like, and then we've got like 10 meals in the refrigerator and the freezer, and you can easily nuke them, and boom, you don't have to go to McDonald's or anything. So it saves on food. And the only disadvantage is not for us. It's for people who run the system. You know, people who make tons of money off of property tax or tons of money off of sales tax. Every time you don't go to a fast food restaurant or some other restaurant and you eat at home, you are not paying that tax. So that's one of the cool things about being MGTOW, is you can control to some extent your the amount of taxes you pay. You can even control to some extent your income taxes, because, for example, I will not work overtime. I won't work the holidays unless the company really needs me to, and in which case I'm a team player. I'll do it, you know. Like last Christmas, there was another guy. Poor guy has kids, and he's managed somehow to get his kids for Christmas, and then he had to work. The company said, "We gotta have you to work," and I said, "No, dude, I'll take it." I mean, if he's got kids, guys have got to look out for each other, and I took the bullet for him, and I worked Christmas. Actually, it's not. It's just another day for me. But so basically, I highly recommend a roommate situation. Very rarely did I have any kind of problem. Almost never, in fact. If you pick a compatible personality to live with, it's just awesome. Actually, there's always someone around, somebody to, well, not always, but somebody around to play games with, video games or whatever. There's just tons of advantages of combining a household. And the economy itself, of course, would prefer, and all of the economists and the government, they would, of course, prefer that we all live separately and pay for everything ourselves, and of course, max out all of our credit cards. Then, of course, give them more money by investing in the stock market and brokerage firms, and they make more money off of that, and they just love taking money from us. Now, it's up to us to keep our wallets closed and keep our own money in our pocket. So basically, roommate situation, awesome. Okay, back to what I was saying before my memory card filled up and the video shut off. What I'd like to do is insert a link in the more info area to a podcast, two podcasts actually, by Paul Wheaton. He's a big permaculture guy. I learned a lot of what I know about gardening from his podcasts and his posts. He wrote, or he had two podcasts on shared living arrangement situations, and I think they're 37 and 42, and I'll link to the page that has both of them on there. If you're into anything like gardening, or, you know, it even applies to other aspects of life, but I highly recommend those podcasts. So, okay, I'll go ahead and put a link in. Okay, I guess I better go mow my lawn. This is getting pretty hardcore. Okay, see ya.